We are in an empowerment revolution, and that's the empowerment of you. That's mindset, mental health, choice, entrepreneurship, going for it, making it happen. That's what this session is all about. And we've got someone who has taken empowerment to the next level personally. She actually owns this space. She's even wrote the book, Empower Yourself. She's got over 10 million followers worldwide, a mover and shaker as you know it. Let's welcome to your screens, Xenia Tchoumi.
Hi, James. Thank you for such a beautiful introduction. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolute pleasure to be here. So we've got 10 million followers, by the way. How did you create that?
Step by step, well, it wasn't by chance. I saw this business coming up when I had a different career. I'm Swiss Italian. I grew up in Switzerland and I studied economics, and I was already working in media at the time. I was working in traditional media, which was top down. So I was writing for magazines and hosting TV shows and being featured by big brands on magazines and in pictures as a testimonial, a face of a brand. But it was always a very top down structured system. And then social media came about, and the early days blogs and fashion blogs arrived, and it was very homemade. But I did see the path laid in ahead of me with pioneers. Pioneers had started doing it, and I saw something in it that screamed independence. It was extremely entrepreneurial and completely unlinked from traditional systems, traditional top-down systems that you depend, on everybody else making a decision for you. Whereas social media wasn't like that. It isn't like that still. If you can have an enticing story, enticing content, and an enticing audience that follows you, then you can create basically any business you want from it. So step by step, bootstrapping, I grew my audience.
Well, you've done a really good job of growing your audience. We are going to be asking you some more questions about that later on. Now, I have been through your book in detail. I do have some questions. So I've actually carved this interview into 5 areas. And one of the first area is the first chapter in your book, actually, take responsibility. Now, I don't need to take responsibility, Xenia.
No,
You're
really.
You're wrong. Tell me why I need to take responsibility.
You don't have to. But it's only for yourself. It's a gift to yourself to be able to take responsibility for any situation in your life. That is how you take control back, instead of having a victim mindset. This happened to me, or this person did that to me. You decide that you are the one in control, not only of your reaction to the situation, because of course bad luck happens, but also how you're going to handle it, and what your responsibility is in that occasion. And there's always a responsibility. There's always a way to look inwards, and that's empowerment. Being able to see how your role has played in any situation, good or bad, is empowerment, because you take matter into your own hands. And I speak about it at length in my book.
I do like a number of things that you said there. So first thing you said, it's a gift. So you genuinely believe, your mindset is that taking responsibility is a gift.
Yeah, it might be a gift in disguise, because initially you have to do the work.
Wait, what you mean when it's not a particularly good situation? Is that the disguise?
Yes, the disguise is saying, okay, I was wrong here, or I did this and that's why something bad is happening to me. But there's always a role. You always play a role in any situation. So even if you are unaware of it. And the best way to do it is to start and understand, or think about, or at least let time pass by for this awareness to come through, and understand that, yes, you did play a role as well in whatever has happened to you. And that's a way to grow and improve your life.
I do like that phrase as well. I'll quote you on this, because you said it just a second ago. Taking control back, taking responsibility is you taking control back. And then you actually said, what did you say? Looking inwards. That's the first step in empowering yourself. Is that right?
100%. It's all about self-work. And in Empower Yourself, I write about how to do practical self-work with very digestible steps that you can take in your day-to-day life that overall, over time, as a habit, will amount into a more empowered lifestyle, and a lifestyle in which you do have more control and more self-awareness, and therefore more control over your life.
Really good start. So let's look at this phrase then. So take responsibility. That's what you've put there. So you take why do you say the word take? You know, if I'm taking something, I'm grabbing it, I'm taking it. Why do you say the word take there?
Because you have to grab it. You just have to grab it.
Hey, don't let me put the words in your mouth here. So is that psychological as much as physical? I mean, you've got to take the opportunities that are coming your way. Is that what you're saying?
In my book, I speak a lot about taking the leap, taking the risk, throwing yourself out there, and how to do that. So taking responsibility is the first step to actually taking a risk, to look inwards, to understand that everything had a role to play in your situation, and you're not, as I said, a victim of circumstances. Or even if you are, the only way to get out of those circumstances is to understand, start from within and from you. And that's the first part of the book. There is, of course, more to that. That's just step one.
So are you saying if you don't take responsibility, you're not prepared to take the risk? Because taking the risk is the first step, yeah? Right.
Taking responsibility is the first step, and then you take the risk. Or it goes hand in hand. Why? Because if you are not prepared responsibly to take that risk, then you're not going to learn anything, and you're not going to be able to handle the situation at hand with that leap of faith that you're taking, with that risk you're taking. You're putting yourself out there, whatever that is, whether you're starting a new business or taking responsibility for some mishap in your life. No matter what it is, the first step is to look inwards, taking responsibility, and then take the leap, because you need to be able to handle the situation at hand. And sometimes people are just unaware and therefore lost. And I'm just trying to bring a little bit more of self-awareness for people to ultimately be more empowered and therefore happier in their day-to-day life and whatever choice they might make.
I think that acknowledgement is certainly standing out for me. The acknowledgement that life is a game of risk. Business is, entrepreneurship is, success is. You got to take some risks. If you're not prepared to take responsibility, you're not prepared to take risks. That's what you're saying.
Correct. You need to know yourself. You need to know where your patterns come from.
Now, I've got a direct question for you here. You might like this, you might not. What's the biggest mistake that you've made, and how did you take responsibility?
I have made so many mistakes.
All right, maybe it's an easy one for you then.
And I make many mistakes all the time. It's just, in business, it's a learning curve, for example. So is in personal life. In personal life, you might not have handled any discussion well or situation well, or you have not understood a person properly. Same with business. I make so many mistakes every day in business by throwing myself out there and fucking up. I don't know if I can say that, but the problem
you just did. Sorry, folks. Enjoy.
Sorry, bleep. Anyway, I've said that. If you do not F up, you will not be able to grow. The only thing is you have to take responsibility for your mistake and learn from it. Otherwise, you're going to be doing it over and over and over and over again, which can happen.
Yeah, you look like it's water off a duck's back. You look like you're completely all right, just making mistakes.
I mean, I do take my hits, and I do get sad about it, and I do get, down emotionally about it, but only for a little bit. That is also something I handle in my book, that it is fine to feel the emotion.
Yes.
It's not wrong to feel bad about a mistake or about a bad situation or anything that is bad in your life. Pain is fine. Feel it. Feel the pain for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
but do not stay in it for too long. Give yourself a time limit. And once you got the time limit set, then it's time to stop. And then it's time to crawl yourself back out and use that pain as fuel for your next step. Because pain can be paralyzing, but pain can also be a motor to do things. Imagine, I'll give you an example, a little bit more less abstract. It's a very cliche one and funny, but imagine the boy or the girl who's gotten left by their boyfriend or girlfriend and they have a broken heart. And they go and they start to go to the gym and they change their whole lifestyle routine and become extremely healthy, extremely strong, extremely sporty, just as a reaction because they are in pain. And they use that pain as a propeller for something better. They better themselves. The same thing can happen in any other area in your life with any pain. So there is a concept called there is basically PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. But also there is a concept that is less known, and it is post-traumatic growth. And I speak about it at length because I have researched it and studied with a scientist from Zurich, a neuroscientist, and we have spoken about this reaction at length. And people have it in them. Human beings have in them to foster post-traumatic growth, to use trauma as a motor for betterment.
That's where you're from, isn't it? I mean, is it Zurich where you're from? I know you split Switzerland and...
My first language is Italian. I'm Swiss Italian. So Lugano is the Italian part of Switzerland, not too far from Milan, but I live in London.
There you go. Who's your football team?
I mean, I am not into football that much anymore.
But if
I have to say one,
Milan?
In Milan it would be Milan, in London it would be Chelsea, in Spain it would be Madrid. Don't kill me.
Whoa. You're splitting the audience now. We've got some
sorry, guys, but I am not an expert, all right? I used to watch it more, and now I'm a little bit off it.
Well, AC Milan or Inter Milan, which one?
AC Milan.
AC Milan all the way. There you go.
Sorry,
if you
guys.
like that, if you like that, great. If you don't, I'm sure it'll be water for ducks back. There you go. All right.
Yeah,
so
half of the audience is gone.
The actual chapter in your book is called this: Take responsibility of your own life. I just need to do that so this screen doesn't turn off any second. So take responsibility of your own life. This is a very powerful statement, that, isn't it? Taking responsibility of your own life. What do you mean when you're adding that bit on the end?
I mean, your own life is determined by certain unconscious biases and unconscious situations that happen to you, whether it is society that has influenced you, your family, religion, and we are extremely unaware of it because we are in it. It's natural to be unaware in it because we live it day in and day out. And it's almost like being in a video game. You don't know you're in a video game unless you get out of it. So you're basically living it and you think that's all there is to reality. But through certain exercises that you can do and self-analysis, you can actually understand other points of view. And that is a way to understand yourself better and really understand whether whatever you are doing in autopilot in your life is truly for you as a human, as a core, or it has been imposed to you by society, family, religion, culture, whatever. So that is an important point to start with. And that's your life. That is how you take responsibility for your own life and your choices.
Love I was unaware that you were going to talk about the biases and the different things that we've all got going on, and when you said their life is you're in a video game, that's all you see. Where did you learn this stuff from? Because it strikes me that you've got a lot of brains there.
I appreciate that. I don't know. It's learning by doing, learning by mistakes, learning from intelligent people, both around me and studying intelligent people. But it is literally just my life journey, and I wanted to share it. And these are my conclusions to date. That does not mean that, in 5 years' time, I won't have new ideas. And it's fine to change your mind on certain things too. But as I have a big audience, I really thought that it would be good to share with my audience, not only my audience, but definitely my audience too, my own conclusions on how to be empowered. Because people always come to me and ask me, how are you so confident? And it's not always obvious to be confident. And how are you so empowered? How do you do everything so independently? And it's much better to share it in a book than in an Instagram caption.
What kind of video to accompany it? That's why we're doing this today. So far,
Yes.
so good here on empowerment. And by the way, you just said you've learned from a lot of intelligent people. Who are some of the smartest people that you've learned from? Name them.
Hmm. I have a lot of good friends, ex bosses as well. I have
Yeah.
worked in various enterprises. I worked briefly internships in finance, investment banking, but also as I am lucky enough to be able to speak and go to entrepreneurial conferences, you end up, meeting people who are like-minded, and they inspire me.
Who's been the biggest trusted advisor that you've ever had then? Who's been the best coach that you've had or mentor or go
Hmm.
on.
I am still looking for a mentor. Honestly, I don't have one mentor. I'll be honest. I was thinking about it for a long time in my life. I've had inspirations, but I've never had a mentor. I don't have a name. Like I wouldn't say, oh yeah, this
Right.
person is the person who, led my way. I had to kind of figure it out by doing, learn by doing, my own mistakes. And I think that's why kind of like I have this own recipe in this book,
Mhm.
because it's literally truly my own.
Well, I'm sure loads of people after this are going to be saying, "I'll be your mentor." There you go. So
You-
you did say inspiration then. So who's been your biggest inspiration?
well, good question. I think people who are resilient, even in my family, my grandma was always very, very resilient
Mm.
in life, in everything she went through in life. She's been the one who raised the whole family, basically, initially. Um, who other people to inspire me? It goes, it goes in phases. Like right now, I cannot tell you. But at the time, for when I was a little bit younger, I used to look up to Oprah because she's in media,
Yeah.
and I really like her messaging. And
And
every,
professionalism and care and compassion and the way she
correct.
speaks.
I like her messaging. I like how she gives herself to the audience. She really, it does take a lot of energy and true empathy to do what she does. So that's why she's so wildly successful, because she empathizes with the person she's speaking to, interviewing, and with the audience.
Yeah. Do you think you've learned that from her just by the inspiration that you've just shared?
Um, have I learned it? I have a long way to go.
Okay, well, very, very good. Humble as well, but I like what you said there about your grandmother who taught you resilience. You learn
Yes.
a lot from your family, and you didn't just mention your grandmother. You said actually family members. A lot of resilience that you've got there. So you do strike me as an incredibly resilient person. I'm going to come back to that actually at the end of this because we've got a really important subject at the end. You want to be listening to this about how to take care of yourself properly. So the next section of your book, Wolster, let's move it on. The next section of your book is about thinking for yourself. I've been through this. I want to ask
Yeah.
you a direct question on this. And question is, what stops you thinking for yourself? What do you reckon the answer to
Being
that
an
is?
being an autopilot, fear of judgment, compliance, wanting to fit in society, wanting to please people, because again goes back to fear of being rejected. So that is why you don't think for yourself. But also, you can package this fear in a general feeling of laziness, even if laziness is what's masking your fear. Actually, it's fear.
What do you mean? What do you mean laziness is masking your fear? We're gonna go into a couple of those in a second. But
Yeah. So what I mean by that is, oftentimes people don't want to put into question their own ideas and their lifestyle, or even life choices, like the job they choose to do, or starting their family or whatever, and they're like, oh, I don't care. I'm just going to do this. And even if I'm not fully satisfied or fully happy, it is what it is. And it looks like laziness. But truly, deep down, it's not laziness or being an autopilot. It's actually fear of change, fear of being rejected by society or not finding a new path for themselves. So that is fear of change is a very big one. So compliance is what is the
Yeah.
default mode of many people.
Yeah, because I've always done it like this. I'm going to keep doing it like this because everyone else does it like this. I've got to do it like this. So it's that fear of change. So autopilot, fear of judgment, fear of rejection. I made note of these as you were going through these. You know, I can't even read my handwriting there. Wanting to something. See if you can remember what you said. Maybe not. Fear of rejection. Then, how do you overcome fear of rejection and start thinking for yourself? How do you do that?
Ultimately, everybody just cares about mainly themselves. So,
and by the way,
yeah.
for everyone listening, that is such a true point. And that's not an ego point. You know, it's not an ego point that's being raised there. And so I do want
What
to
I mean
acknowledge.
is, nobody really truly cares about you as much as you think in society. Your neighbor, people on the street, even your coworkers don't truly care about what you do. And they might judge you for a bit, but they will forget about it. And ultimately, you're the one who's going to be unhappy if you keep pleasing people. Ultimately, if you please other people without listening to your own self, you just don't love yourself. You don't listen to your own needs. So how do you overcome fear of rejection? I think you put yourself out there slowly by trying, like, the only way to overcome any fear is to face the fear. And how do you eat a big elephant? Bit by bit. So you start doing things where you could be rejected and experiencing rejection in small bits. And that's how you train yourself to care less about rejection, to understand that the world won't crumble on you even if there is rejection, because ultimately the important person to you is you.
I love it. You know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You know, the only way to overcome fear is by facing it. You heard it there firsthand. It really does resonate. What about fear of judgment then? I mean, how common is that?
Extremely.
You know,
It
I'm
is
not.
normal. We're social animals. We live in a society. We need society to survive. It is ingrained in us. And I'm not saying we need to be a hermit and to not care at all about other people's opinions. But I think society conditions us to fear them too much, to think about it a bit too much. So this is the book, and the book speaks about how to let go of it a little bit, because it is therapeutical and it is ultimately a path to then becoming a leader in of your own life, deciding
There's
for
an art.
yourself.
There's a real art and a psychology to letting go, isn't there? Have you ever found it hard to let go?
It is hard, but what I'm trying to do in the book is to make it easier, to make it very digestible, because it seems harder than it is. For example, on social media, initially when bloggers or content creators or influencers start their career, they get a lot of judgment, because that comes with judgment. And some people initially get really affected by it because, there is love and there is hate and there is a lot of trolls. And newbies in the business do get affected by it. But after a long time of doing it, people start being less and less sensitive to it. And this is the only way, because they get used to it and they understand that it doesn't really matter. So that's the same thing. It's about putting yourself out there and being judged, and literally just focusing on what's important to you. Another trick, because there's tricks and tips in my book, would be to focus on what's really important to you. And the rest is like, it's like noise, and you need to take it as noise. And there's always going to be noise. And if there is no noise, they always say, if they don't speak about you, then you're not relevant. There's going to be always noise. There's going to be always judgment. But what matters is you stick to what's important to you.
Have you ever like had that real chronic fear of rejection or fear of judgment?
Well, naturally, we all do, 100%. Even if I would say, no, not really, but actually I do. Because by working in my line of business, automatically, by creating creative content, you seek validation from your audience. You seek a reaction from your audience.
Yeah.
You want your work to be appreciated and liked. You want success ultimately. You want a feedback from society. So I could say I don't care because that's how I feel, because naturally I'm so used to reactions that they don't affect me much. But ultimately, my work needs continuous and constant feedback and validation. So there is that aspect too.
Look, that's definitely reassuring for the audience here. I mean, because look, there's millions of people that's following you worldwide. They're looking up to you, and you're like a walking, talking success story to them. And what you're saying is, even you feel this stuff.
Of
I
course.
mean, so when did you start thinking for yourself?
Early.
Well, how early? So you learned resilience from your grandmother. How early were you when you started thinking for yourself and taking real control?
I mean, there is no like point where it really started. I would say I became a little bit freer from, being a child within the family nucleus at 12. My parents got separated. So
Right?
naturally, there was a little bit less control in the house because they were going
Yeah.
through their own issues. So I'm an only child and I was left freer, less controlled, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was a blessing in disguise for me because I kind of became my own individual. I discovered myself more
Right.
because well, I was left by like a little bit more free to roam around and see who I am and explore. And I think that's when it started. But then it's a journey. It's forever a journey.
Yeah, look, be comfortable in sharing any of that point that you want to make. I won't push you too far on that. I mean, that's entirely up to you. Now, who's the best person that you've ever known then that thinks for themselves, a role model, if you like? You said your grandmother on resilience, on taking responsibility and that sort of thing. So who's the best person to think for themselves that you know?
I'm very, very, very bad at these examples of people, like terribly bad. I should make myself a list of people because, it changes every period of my life. It's never one person. Um, there has been people in history, they're leaders, and, they are extraordinary. Everybody is extraordinary in a certain way. And then they inspire me for a moment, and then I just go on to the next one. So I don't really have one role model. I don't have one person that I'd say, oh, okay, that is a person that thinks for themselves. It's hard. I
So,
need to know them inside out to tell you.
so to just take you back to one of your toughest times that you've been through. I mean, it could be in the recent past. It could be years. How did you think for yourself in that time? The toughest time.
Okay, so it's a very good look. It's very good as a good example. I can give you the fact that I've always thought of myself as a human being, an individual, and not necessarily female or a woman. I am a woman, I feel like a woman, but I was never feeling in this kind of like societal role, a typical role of what a woman should be doing, what her aspirations in life should be. And when they were kind of like pushed upon me, or I've encountered resistance early on in business, I was always very shocked because I was thinking for myself and I was being my own independent, empowered human. But then people would be like, but you're a girl, you're a woman, you should be
Mm-hmm.
behaving that way and not this way. You should be leading business in this role and not that role. And for me, that was a shock because I was always extremely empowered. And I naturally thought that as a human, if I work hard, I can just be in any role that I want to be. And I've encountered quite a lot of resistance in my line of profession, even more so. Not digital influencing, more the traditional media that are very male dominated. And women are seen in a certain role there, and they should stay in that role. And that didn't go down well with me.
Well, look, so far so good. We're talking here about taking responsibility. We're talking here about thinking for yourself. The next core area is a really common one. Hear this in self-development all the time. Jim Rohn, very famous, talking about this, and it's that of discipline. So, question for you, before we just crack open what the subject of discipline means. What's the hardest discipline that you've personally ever had to develop? What is it?
Discipline is so important, and I am the one who writes about it. I'm the one who knows how to handle it, but I'm also the one who struggles with it, which is very funny. That's why I know so much about it, and because I have to work on it so much.
You know what Jim Rohn says? Jim Rohn, incredible mindset guru, sadly no longer with us now. If you've not listened to some of Jim Rohn's stuff, to anyone who's listening to this, go and listen to some of his stuff. He says about discipline, when he's talking about it, he says, listen to me very, very carefully. Just do not watch me too closely. You know, because we're all doing it. Yeah, that's our challenge for everybody. You've got to be disciplined.
Yes. So you asked me a question, what's the hardest discipline to develop? For me, it's a personal thing. For me, it's about sleep hygiene. But then everyone has a different one. For me, it's sleep hygiene.
Yeah, I do it. I have Aura Ring, and
me too. I don't have it on, but I have it.
Yeah.
How are your stats last night?
I'm pretty good. Deep sleep is always around about 1 hour and 40 minutes, which is pretty good.
Very well.
Latency, I'm about 3 minutes, so it's very quick. I aim for that 7 to 8 hour mark. When you hit the 8 hour mark, very, very good. But I'm an early riser, so got to be asleep early as well.
Guys, everybody, the Aura Ring, if you don't know about
it, got to do it.
It's a device that measures your sleep.
To be fair,
in depth.
it's a good point. It depends.
It's not an ad. There are other devices out on the market that do the same. Anyway.
It depends if you want to be disciplined, doesn't it? It depends if you want to be elite, because that's what it is. It's about taking yourself up to the next level. That
with no discipline is impossible. It's impossible to achieve anything, because we're human beings. There's gonna be days that are up, days that are down, days that you are motivated, and days that you're totally unmotivated. So only discipline will get you from A to B, not motivation, because that comes and goes. You know, moods can change. Discipline is a routine.
Only discipline will get you from A to B, not motivation, because motivation will come and go. It's really powerful words that's said straight from Xenia Tchoumi here today. So keep putting your comments and learning points in here. Really love that. Here's another Jim Rohn quote. We've got another one prepared for you. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. It's the necessary action that you take in there. What about this question then? What are the best disciplines to have? What are the worst disciplines to have? That's a good question. I mean, come on.
It's in my book. Read my book. Empower yourself.
Look, the people are going to be getting the book. It's going to be going all over. So there is no doubt about it. What's the worst discipline that you've heard of or seen?
How can you have a bad discipline? Like the worst discipline? What does that even mean? That means you've developed an unconscious discipline that is bad for you? That's not a discipline. That's a habit.
Look, to be fair, I'm going back to Jim Rohn again here, because he says this: a few simple disciplines repeated every day will result in more success than you can imagine. And a few simple errors in judgment repeated every day will result in failure like you don't want to even look at. You know, and the example is, do you choose the apple or the chocolate bar? What do you choose? You've got a choice to make. Which do you go for? One requires discipline, yeah? One of those two requires discipline. That's it's an easy example.
The thing is, sadly, people sometimes are unaware that by not choosing discipline, they're still choosing a bad habit. So they think there's no like 0 point. It's either negative or positive.
Yes.
And it adds up over time.
Everybody's got discipline, you see, because some people are incredibly disciplined. When they make a cup of tea, they go get a biscuit in the biscuit tin. Or they're very disciplined at having coffee. They have like 5 coffees in the morning. I mean, that takes discipline, yeah? So some
Not
people
discipline. It's a habit.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There we go. It's a habit. So
That's not a definition of discipline.
how do
Discipline
you
is
develop the habit?
by definition something that you impose yourself to repeat, because it has a positive effect over time. I guess that's my
Say
own
that
definition.
again.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Something that you impose yourself to repeat. That's really good. I've not heard that before in all of the discipline research. That something that you impose yourself to repeat. So coffee is imposing yourself to repeat, yeah?
No, coffee is a pleasure, so it's a habit, unless it's not a pleasure for you and you're doing it for some health reason or a dietary reason. That's discipline.
Right. So you look, I mean, look, in neuroscience, we've got a neuroscientist coming on next week. So human beings seek pleasure and avoid pain at every given opportunity. You know, the road less traveled, the road commonly traveled. Which do you go with?
But I speak a lot in my book about habit development and how habits initially could feel uncomfortable and negative, and then become a pleasure over time, and a need even.
Yeah, you learn
by mere repetition.
I suppose sport is a good example, isn't it? Athletes go through this, so they're doing physical training. They have to push themselves through pain, and I've seen this with athletes that I've coached and mentored myself at really high levels. That what happens is they get a mentality where they begin to enjoy it. They begin to really enjoy the pain, the challenge, the pursuit. So, how important is going through that pain and learning to enjoy it over time?
It is about habit development. Habit development is not necessarily going through pain all the time. It is repetition initially, and it's unpleasant. It could be unpleasant if the habit is difficult to perform. Not all habits are difficult, but there are some positive ones that are not pleasant. And then it becomes an automatism, and oftentimes it becomes a need. So you create new synapses in your brain, new pathways. Those pathways start, firing together in an automatic way, and it's not an effort for you anymore. It's like brushing your teeth. When you brush your teeth, it's not like you're like, oh my God, this morning I have to brush my teeth. That is terrible. You don't think about it.
Good habit,
do you?
though, isn't it? Yeah, everyone does it twice a day. So
correct, minimum, I hope. Thing is, what I'm
how
saying
how many times do you brush your teeth? I mean, everyone's thinking that now. So I'm asking.
Minimum twice, sometimes 3 times, depending on what I eat. You shouldn't overbrush your teeth, by the way. Another little health trick. You should brush your teeth a little bit away from food, because otherwise there is a chemical reaction in your mouth, and its acidity is bad for you.
There you go. Keep neutral alkaline levels in the body. All right. So look, all right. So far we've done discipline. We have done taking responsibility. We've done thinking for yourself. Number 4, we are talking confidence, building your confidence, so to speak. Now, here's the first question. Where on earth does confidence come from? Because everyone wants it. Everyone speaks. Where's it come from?
My book has so many tips and tricks, and fake it till you make it is one of them. Fake it till you make it if you cannot feel it. Another one is to write down your actual strong points, or things you're proud of about yourself. And even the tiniest ones, it doesn't matter. Even if you feel like a total failure, you can always find something about yourself that you like, even the smallest thing, and then blow them up out of proportion. Base yourself on those things and work up from there. And at the same time, fake it till you make it, because it's also about perception is reality with other people. So body language matters, tone of voice matters, posture matters, how you look into people's eyes when you're talking matters. So those are all small things, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you perform it, and the more people will perceive you as confident, and the more confident you will start feeling over time.
So make the list. What do you make the list of to start with?
Of your own accomplishments and all things that you love about yourself. Maybe you're a good person. Maybe you're sweet to people. Maybe you are altruistic. Maybe you're just good at making pancakes. It doesn't matter. Even the smallest thing or the biggest achievement of your life. You have to have a clear idea of what's good about you. And that should be a list that you have and you keep adding on to. So it's going to be, you know, not just external accomplishments. The best way to have confidence is to, first of all, appreciate your human qualities, because those ones want to be taken away from you easily. And then go on to accomplishments, that's an external source of validation, of course. And then you keep building up from there, and basically really reappreciating your own self between you and you.
Yeah, there's some really wise words. I mean, for someone so young, which you are still so young, where do you get this wisdom from? Because there's so many powerful statements in what you just said there.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
It's one of
I
my human qualities.
don't. What else? Do you have a list?
Got a list. Make the list. I mean, that's your
It's gonna
starting
be
point.
super long.
Make a list and add to it. That's what you said there. Yeah.
Yes.
Keep adding
Yes.
to it.
Keep adding to it. This is one of them.
This
Okay,
is empower-
anyway, where do I get that
empowerment.
from?
We're talking about
Nowhere.
it.
This is me. This is me. There is no source, no book. Oh, I mean, I've read books on, I've read a lot of self-help books of very amazing, intelligent people. But in terms of confidence, this is like my own recipe, really. Because first of all, I'm naturally confident. I've always been, thanks to my parents, probably. Probably I got the right.
And your grandmother, the resilient factor. I mean, resilience plays its part in confidence, yeah?
I think my parents somehow ingrained in me self-belief. I think
How
my
did
mom
they do that?
probably, my mother probably did that. My mom probably, with her love and believe in me, she believed in me, simply believed that I can. She really helped me believe in myself.
How?
By loving me, by thinking that it is normal that, for example, I'd come home with great grades, amazing grades. It wouldn't be for her anything extraordinary. She'd be like, but that's normal for you. I'm not surprised, like you should, it's normal. And it's like her like unconditional belief in the fact that I can achieve things helped me achieve more, because I started believing I can. So believe in people, believe in your friends, believe in your family, in your partner. It's going to help them believe in themselves.
I like how you did that there at the end, actually. You said believe in other people and watch how it impacts their confidence. That will teach you about confidence. So you had that unconditional level of belief from your parents. No, that's your level. You got this. I like that. All right. So,
but then you have to foster it. It's not just up to my parents, because that's just a start. You can also start without it. And then life can hit you, because it's not about delusional confidence. It's about your life journey, and life is not all a straight line. So what you do is you need to work yourself on your own confidence from there on. And that level, to maintain that level of self-belief, is, you know, how you treat yourself between you and you, what you believe about yourself deep down, truly, behind closed doors, just looking at the mirror. And that's where you should work on. And that's the main work to do. And then it will reflect automatically on the outside, and people will react to that self-belief that you have. If you believe in yourself, other people will naturally start mirroring you.
Very powerful words from somebody so young and wise. There you go. So people will react to your level of confidence and belief. So look, I'm surely there must have been a time in your life where you've been low on confidence. Now, what did you do about it when you were low on confidence, if that's ever occurred?
There's many things you can do. You can start writing. I believe in journaling. And start analyzing the situation and trying to see if it's rational or irrational. and to see where is like just my own feelings and emotion and where is the objective truth. That's like a philosophical meditation that you do in written. It's a technique, and it's very easy to do. It's an easy trick, and if you do the work, it really does help you see the truth and then re-evaluate if
It's like making that list. I mean, writing it down, it's quite therapeutic. Yeah. So,
yeah,
what you're
by
saying,
hand.
yeah, writing it down by hand is it's almost like bringing an unconscious into conscious. Is that right?
Yes, and you know about it, I can tell.
All right. Well, let's go the other way. What's the most confident you've ever been?
When good question. It is probably achievement gives me a boost of confidence. Being able to seek a goal, obtain it by myself because I sought it, work for it and obtain it and see the results. So that kind of journey and then the result coming is the moment of, the best, the dopamine high and everything. It's a confidence boost for sure, because you're like, I did it from A to Z. No one else. I created this. And so these spurs of achievement, whether smaller or bigger, they do maintain my confidence, of course, other than just the confidence that I have within. So this is an external one. There's two things. There's the confidence that you have in you as a human, absolutely unrelated from what happens around you, which is the most important, is the real confidence. And then there is a confidence that is, situational. But those are highs. Those are definitely highs. And I admit that it really does give me a boost of confidence. But the true confidence is when nothing happens and you just feel good about yourself.
All right. So you talk about the boost of confidence that you get when you achieve something, and it was a nice reflection what you did there, because you actually acknowledged you went internally. There was some introspection going on there, and you were like, "Yeah, I did this." Now, I wonder how many people out there actually have that methodology. I did this, when they take the credit, because that's what you did there, and that's how you got your boost. I did this.
And that's important. That's an act of self-love, reminding yourself. It's the same as writing that list, reminding yourself of big or small. It doesn't matter how small it is for you, but you should really acknowledge it because it's an act of love.
Again, that's some wise words there. That is an act of self-love. You've written a bloody good book here.
Thank you.
These are incredible words that you're adding to this. Let's have a look. The last point then. The last point that we wanted to talk about was that of taking care of yourself. All right. So we've kind of talking about that with confidence. It's an act of self-love. Surely that's part of taking care of yourself.
Yes. But also, this book is about empowering yourself. So it's about taking the leap. It's about using pain, but it's also about not overdoing it. Oftentimes is like we don't allow ourselves that space in which it is okay not to be perfect. It is okay not to be productive. It is okay not to be anything and just be. And I think in our society, it's all about doing and taking action. And in this book is about taking action. But you need those moments in which you do not. And you shouldn't feel bad about yourself. You should have them mindfully and in order to recharge, because in nature, nothing is linear, and it is important to have moments of rest, not just physical rest, emotional rest, mental rest, spiritual rest. So it's all about rhythm, and it's about having those moments in your life rhythm, in your life lifestyle in general.
I suppose, for the real hard workers and the grafters and the serial success stories out there, I can really relate to what you said. One of my mentors said to me, this was probably not that long ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago. Matt Borden, he was called, psychologist, amazing guy. He said, James, it's all right to give yourself permission to have a day off. And
Yes.
it was just understated that and you said it beautifully, you know, it's okay. Have a day off, or as part of taking care of yourself. So I could really relate to it, how you said that.
It's not about
What about
perfection. Yeah.
what about
Tell me.
affirmations? What about affirmations? They're, you know, taking care of yourself. You hear about all this self-talk. There's lots on this. What's your opinion on the matter of affirmations?
I mean, I believe in affirmations. It
You
is
strike me
not,
like you've got a very strong voice in your head.
I do, and you need to always fine tune that voice because it's not always positive, and that's the problem. It is
Yeah,
about
but
self talk. It's how
isn't
you
that
talk to
good?
yourself.
Yeah,
Hmm?
like every question I've asked you, you've always shown that a little bit of vulnerability that comes with it. And I still need to fine tune that. That's cool.
I do, because oftentimes I have an inner critic and it's very strong. And when I was younger, people always told me, don't be so hard on yourself. And I could never understand what they meant. Never. I was like, but I'm not. And then I understood it is my inner voice. It is how I talk to myself. It's how I push myself and I over push myself.
Mm.
It is fine to, be ambitious. It is fine to have motivation and goals, but you need to be kind to your own rhythms. You need to be sweet to yourself. You need to be nurturing in the way you have this inner talk. Um, and if you're not, you just like pause and change it. And it's just about pausing and changing it. If you're like, I don't know, like you forgot your keys at home and you're running out and you're like, I'm so stupid. That that is where you stop yourself. Be like, no, Xenia, it happens. You're okay. You're only human. Don't worry. It's gonna be all right. We're gonna solve this. This is how you stop yourself.
How do you learn the pause then? So there's lots of people out there. It makes complete sense in what you're saying, you know, but I'm guessing a few people who's watching this right now is thinking, I need to learn how to pause. How do you do that?
By practice.
Is
And
that
even
habit?
if you
That
F
habit?
up, even if you make a mistake, which you will, I do it all the time. I tend to insult myself as well. We all do. When you do and you notice it, try to notice it first. Put yourself in a mental state of, okay, from now on, when I insult myself, I will try to listen to myself and notice. That is already a program you're giving to your own brain. And then the moment it happens, you correct it. And then it's gonna become more and more natural, and you're gonna do it less and less and be nicer and happier. Being nicer to yourself will make you better at everything you do.
What about exercise and
I
health? And, you know, where's that coming in looking after yourself or taking, you
Self-love.
know,
It's self-love. There's a lot of little ideas in the book. I call them power tricks on things you can do, in
quite
terms of,
nice, that, isn't it? Power tricks, empower.
yes,
These are power tricks.
they're power tricks. Yeah. And they're simple and digestible, and, anyone can just integrate whichever of the power tricks they need into their life and use them. And, of course, exercise is one of those. And you can, we are humans in human bodies. We do need it. It's an act of self love. What type of exercise, then it's up to you to decide. There is a lot of ideas in my book.
Well, I mean, I even think people who've got your book, if they're listening to you talk it, they will go back and read this book from a different lens. Actually, from some of the vulnerability you've shown in here.
Thank you.
What else is super important in taking care of yourself?
Cutting out relationships that are not nurturing you, and those are tough to individuate sometimes. But relationships and people around us affect us enormously, tremendously, up to our health, not just our psychology or our mental health, but also physical health over time. And that is a very big step of self-care and self-love. The relationships, choosing the right relationships around you that nurture you for real and that don't take away from you or don't make you feel at loss every day.
Yeah, there is one more subject I do want to talk to you about briefly, because you're an expert on this as well, and it's not necessarily in the book, but it's something that I do need to unpick now. And I mean, I'm just going to ask the audience for, what's been your favorite part so far? What have been your learnings and takeaways? How are you going to use what you've learned today to propel yourself next week and tomorrow and every day thereafter? So feel free to comment there in the comment box. Now, one of my favorite bits so far, by the way, Xenia, is an act of love, an act of self-love. That is such a powerful statement. That's those little mini acts of self-love. This is what I've realized from talking to you. They just add up, and they build self-esteem and build confidence and build self-belief. What's been your favorite bit, actually?
In the book or in my self-love act?
No, in this conversation.
Your energy.
Okay, there you go. Look at that.
You are smart, energetic, and I can tell you do the work.
There you go. So, and that's all an honest conversation. By the way, to everybody listening right now, Xenia did not know any of these questions we were going to ask her. We've been through it, but we were fine to have come. So here's the area I do want to talk about, and it's that of social media.
Mm-hmm.
You are nearing 12 million across different team. Look at this.
You have your Instagram out there.
I've even gone on Instagram right now. I've even gone on there. It's the first time today. The account has been open today because we're here talking to Xenia. The team have been all over it on it for years, so we finally sort of taken the leap.
Congratulations.
There you go. You can
I have my Instagram here too, or no, it's fine.
Yeah, no, you can come on here. So of course everybody will jump on that as well. So Max will put that on in a second. Max, you can take that off if you want. The area I wanted to speak to you about is social media. You've gone up to almost 12 million now followers. Now, how do you handle the negative? Because that's the bit that's the challenge, the trolls, the ones that come in and attack.
I got booked into conferences with younger generations to speak about how to handle your own digital persona, your own digital trail, and trolls. But in a psychological point of view, like from a personal point of view, I really, 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 truly don't care. Like, I've been in this business for so many years, whether it's social media or media, anything. So it really does not affect me, because I totally understand that it's people projecting their own problems onto me, and it's not me, because I am just an image, a representation of something to them. They don't know me personally. They cannot know me personally. The same happens for anyone else on social media. It's just an impression of you. It's not you. So you cannot take personally these trolls. So how I handle them, I block them. And if I don't block them, I leave them there to create a little bit more engagement. I don't care.
Do you know, I did one of these sessions, a Big Friday finish, with world champion kickboxer, Liam Harrison. It was an incredible session. And he was speaking a lot about mindset, as you probably could imagine. And I asked him, because he'd got up to a few million followers. And I asked him how he handled the critics. And he said, you know what? He says the fire never comes from above. It always comes from below. It's always people that a wish that we're like you or something like that. There's an element of jealousy to it. It just comes from there. And he says, that's how I get over it. Because
yes.
no one above me has ever criticized me.
Yes, take it as a compliment. That means that you are threatening to people, or you are touching something within them. And it's not about you, again. It's never personal. So that means you're provoking a reaction. There are people, and I'm not suggesting to do that, but there are people that created whole careers out of having haters. They provoke them on purpose in order to become more spoken about. And then they get more fans and followers and lovers. So I'm not saying to do that, but take it as a compliment. Take it as interest in you, and take it as you are actually very interesting.
There you go. Lessons from the top. Got about 1 minute to go here. Max, who have we got to look forward to next week on the Big Friday Finish? We have got Helena Boschi next week. She's a psychologist. She is a neuroscientist on success, business growth, and personal growth. So we're going to learn the whole science behind this stuff next week. Tune in at 4 p.m. On behalf of everybody here, Xenia, thank you, Max. On behalf of everybody here, Action Coach UK, everybody watching the Big Friday Finish, thank you so much. What an amazing
Thank you,
session.
James. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah. Empower yourself. Lessons from the top. Xenia Tchoumi, there you had it. Everybody, have a fantastic weekend. Bye for now.
Bye.